Oh, are we starting? Okay, all right, let's get started. Hello, everybody. My name is John, and I'm the CEO and founder of Beyond Screen, and this is Beyond Tablet. And today, I'm going to show you how to learn coding, how to play games and learn coding with Beyond Tablet. We have developed 3 games to learn coding. The first one is called Monster Maze. All right, and this is the game map for Monster Maze. So you deploy a monster like this inside the maze, and then you use these buttons to program the movement of a robot to capture the monster. So now you can actually program with 2 ways. One is to use these up and down and left and right arrows to move the robot. Now, the second way is actually use these coding cards, which we're not going to show you today. So let's keep it simple and let's see whether we can capture the monster in the maze. Now, to capture the monster, first you need to deploy the monster by activating the monster. Now this monster is activated. Okay? So now you just simply place the monster anywhere in the maze, and you're going to capture it with this little robot. And let's see how many steps it takes to capture the monster with this robot. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the robot needs to turn right. And then the robot needs to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 steps to the right. And then once the robot has caught up with the monster, you need to blow the horn very loudly to scare the monster away. And that's how it works. Let's see how it works. And there you go. The monster is scared away from the maze, and our coding mission has been accomplished. Hello everyone. Let me introduce you to another exciting coding game. It is called Cat vs. Dog, a coding game. This game is played on Beyond Tablet with these components: a game map, an army of cats, an army of dogs, and coding cards that players use to send a particular cat or dog into battle. The coding cards are designed such that your code cannot be seen by your opponent. Each of the cats or dogs is represented by a number, from 0 to 5. 2 players, each commands 1 army, line up the cats and the dogs on the front line, and send 1 cat and 1 dog to fight in each round. All right, so all the dogs are in position. All right, all the cats are in position. This is the front line. Dogs are deployed on the front line. Each number has 2 lives, as indicated by the 2 hearts underneath. 0 is a bomb. When an enemy number fights a 0, both lose 1 life. 5 is the largest number. When a number fights an enemy whose number is smaller, the enemy number loses 1 life. And after a number has lost 2 lives, it is completely destroyed. The sequence by which you send your dog or cat into battle is determined by the 3 coding modules that you will develop. This is the first coding module. You specify which number is to be sent first with the first coding module. This is the second coding module. You specify which number is to be sent second, and this is the third coding module. The simplest form of programming here is simply to create a sequence of numbers, something like this. What this means is that I'm going to deploy number 0 first, and then I'm going to deploy the number 5, and then I'm going to deploy number 3. Keep in mind that your opponent is not supposed to see the coding sequence you just created. Similarly, your opponent can create a cat sequence. Now the cats and dogs will fight in the sequences specified. So now, what has happened? Well, what happened was that Beyond Tablet has faithfully executed the strategies laid out by the commanders of the dogs and the commander of the cats. In the first battle, the number 3 of the dog army is sent against the number 0 of the cat army. Both lost 1 life. In the second battle, the number 2 of the dog army is sent against the number 5 of the cat army, and the number 2 of the dog lost 1 life. And so on and so forth. You may even turn the army cards on the front line upside down to hide the numbers to make the game more intriguing and more difficult. Now, when it comes to programming, there are certain very, very basic concepts. So these concepts are sequence, as we have just demonstrated, conditionals, and loops, and procedures. Within each coding module, you can set up a conditional command using the smiley face and the crying face. If your frontline number has prevailed in battle, then the commands after the smiley face is executed. If your frontline number has failed in battle, then the command after the crying face is executed. Let me just put a number right here. So by doing so, I just create a conditional statement. I said, I'm going to deploy number 0 first. If 0 wins, then I'm going to replace 0 with the number 2. And there you have it, conditional statement. The second very, very powerful coding concept is loop. This command allows you to set up an unconditional loop. And this command allows you to set up a conditional loop. So if I place the game piece here, what I just did was to have written another statement that says, I'm going to deploy the number 5. Now, if number 5 prevails in the battle, I'm going to keep the number 5 in the battle until such time that number 5 has lost once, in which case this block is finished and I'm moving on to execute the next block. So there you go. That's how you create a loop statement. Now, obviously, your opponent will be trying to do exactly the same thing. Once we have developed our respective strategy, let the game begin again. Once again, Beyond Tablet has executed the strategies developed and set you up for the next round of battle. Children learn coding because they need to understand how you think when you create a computer program. They need to learn coding as ability. They need to learn coding as a skill. They need to learn coding as a way of thinking. And those are the concepts we teach with this cat versus dog coding game. Now I'm going to show you a storytelling game, Magic Forest. So you can see on this map, we have a little frog and we have potion floating actually in the river. Now, how do you tell a story? How do you even code a story? To create a story, first, you will need to create what we call events. Now, let's say the boy wants to talk to the frog. And you do that by placing the boy next to the frog. Now, that's your first event. And you can see the event number 1 light has been flashing. Let's just press long press here. Okay, now, little boy talking to the frog becomes the first event of your story. And let's see the magician. Where do we want to place the magician? How about in this mountain close to the castle? And that's your event number 2. Alright, so the number 2 event has been created. Alright, so and now this little girl is going to talk to the turtle. All right, and we're going to define that as our event number 3. So, as you can see, you can have these multiple characters and you can place them on different area of the map to create all these events. And the production of the story will involve adding dialogues to the characters, adding music to these dialogues, and then create actually a logic structure with coding as to how the story unfolds. Let's move on to the next game map. Alright, so welcome to the second part of creating a Magic 3D interactive story with Magic Forest, a coding game. As you remember, on our last game map, we have created 3 events. And now we're going to add story to the 3 events. So here we have these event cards. Let's create a dialogue with event number 1. Now you can see that once I place event number 1 here, the little boy's icon lights up. And that means in this event, the little boy is the character that we're going to create a story for. And you simply record a story by pressing, let me see, this recording button. Hello, Mr. Frog, how are you? Mr. Frog, how are you? That sounds boring, right? But, that's the best I can do. So let's hear what I sound like in this recording, which is probably not very good. Let's just listen to it. Alright, okay, so because this is a little boy and it's probably morning, the boy is probably very happy. Let's create some color. Let's throw some color into that conversation. So I'm gonna choose orange and light green. I don't know, it's to make the boy looks happy. And let's just say we want to proceed with that story. And here you press this button.
Hello, Mr. Frog, how are you?
Oh, the little boy is flashing orange and green. All right, that's cool. Okay. And as you can see, actually, we can create a lot of different dialogues with that first event. But due to the limitation of time, let's just proceed with our event number 2. And you can see now the boy and the magician are all in the scene. So what we need to do now is to add perhaps something for the magician.
I am hungry. I want to eat a little boy's breakfast.
That's mean. That's not a very good story. And but let's soldier on, okay? So I'm gonna skip event number 3, and I'm gonna proceed to show you how you can actually create a soundtrack. You can actually create music. Yes, composing music into your story, and this is how.
Bye-bye.
Oh my goodness, look at all these different cars. Where did they come from? Well, you're gonna find out these are actually coding cards. Yes, indeed. There is a point here and there is a connection between storytelling and coding, which we will find out later. But before that, let's create music for our story. This is the first event, remember? Let's place an event card here. And this is the dialogue. So that's basically the dialogue that we're going to create the music for. Because this is for the little boy, I'm going to place the little boy right here. And that allows me to tell the system that I'm composing music for the little boy. Which will recommend a few instruments for the music. And let's just choose, what do we have to choose? Let's choose piano. And this is how you create music. It's very easy. That's it. Okay, so let's see how that music sounds like. That actually sounds pretty good, right? Alright, okay. So now you want to see how the music can blend with the conversation, which may not sound very good. Let's just try it anyway. Alright, that's just okay. It's just, not the best we can do. Well, it's the best I can do, but it's not the best you can do. And then we're gonna actually create some light effects with these buttons. You add those effects into this music, and let's just save that as the first episode of event number 1, and let's see how the whole thing will come up to be. Alright, you know what? I actually kind of like it. It's not the best. It's not the most interesting, exciting story in the world, but it's something. Let's just proceed. So now we're gonna program the same thing for event number 2. And we're gonna do the same thing for event number 3. And we're gonna do the same thing for event number 6. And yes, we didn't do number 6, but if you were to create the most fantastic story in a magic forest, you probably need more than 3 events, right? And you probably need more than a few lines of conversation, and that is up to you. I have exhausted my creative capability and imagination, but it's up to you to create the most interesting story here. So far, we have created events, and we have created dialogues, and we have composed music to go with all those dialogues. Now, in order to combine all these elements into a story, and this is how you do it, and this is the coding map. Now, as I was showing you earlier, we have all these different cards, and you can see these all coding cards. Loop, and then if. So these are different coding cards that will construct all these events into a program. Now, because we have only been able to create 2 events, the coding here is going to be super simple. In order to create a program of all the elements that we have created so far, you first have to place the icon of the sun here on this map. And basically, this card represents the entirety of the program you're going to create here, and that becomes a master key for you to run this particular program. Now, we previously have created event number 1 and event number 2. And because we only have 2 events, the coding is going to be super simple. And you simply place the card here. We execute number 1. We execute number 2, and ta-da, that's it. So now let's go back to our magic forest and see how this story plays out on the scene. So as I'm telling you, you first place this card onto the sun to launch the program. Alright, so that wasn't a particularly interesting story, I admit. However, this is a tool that empowers you to create the most interesting story that happens every day in the magic forest.